but a little bit related towards what I'm going to talk today. Even when you do the translation, you need to see the subject matter which you are going to translate in many ways. For example, first, if you are going to translate a book, you need to read carefully the title of the book and the contents and index of the book before reading anything, and get some idea what maybe they are in the rest of the book. And then if it is not so clear, you develop a curiosity which will help you go much more, smoothly when you actually read the different chapters. So it's really like if you want to see the panoramic view of this beautiful land, one way of seeing it is seeing from the top of a mountain or from the aeroplane, which I did. Then you are able to get a very panoramic view. But that panoramic view is very beautiful. But if you want to know the details, that will not work. You have to get down, go to specific places, houses, ask questions, and know all the details. So a translator first have to have an idea about this, what this whole book is about, what this whole chapter is about. Then you need to know about the specific chapters, the specific paragraphs, and so forth. So that is more or less the art of translation. And the beauty of doing translation is that you are able to go into the minds of so many great thinkers, and you try to express those beautiful thoughts in a different language, where people will also be able to understand those thoughts, exactly what the author thought about. And you are not supposed to be in between. You should go away. You do the job and get away from the scene. And that is not easy. That's not easy, because many translators, interpreters, they get in between and then, put their thoughts in between. So that is doing a little bit of damage. So therefore, one has to be careful. So similarly in life, we need to have a panoramic view about the whole universe, the whole world, the whole cosmos. And then it is not enough that you talk about universal values, cosmic values, and then fight with your neighbors. You also need to be in harmony with your neighbor, the members of your family, and so forth. So that is why, the process of translation is very much related to the topic that I'm going to speak, inner disarmament for external disarmament. I'm speaking on this topic, or trying to speak on this topic, not because I want to do an academic talk or something like that. But I'm really sometimes concerned if I think about what is happening in today's world. Despite so much material progress and development, still the leaders and many people, their bent of mind is how to stockpile arms. Each country is making more and more dangerous, complicated, sophisticated wars, weapons, with the thinking and idea, if my neighbor does something nasty, I will be the one who should be able to destroy everything. Yes, we have now the capacity to destroy everything. We have all heard about biological warfare, chemical warfare, smart bombs, what not? Smart bombs. You throw a bomb, destroy all people, but the building will be intact. Smart bomb. Chemical warfare, biological warfare, so mean that you bring sacks and sacks of locusts and throw into the field of your enemy. Unthinkable, we have such destructive, nasty mind. And we cannot afford to do this continuously if we are, in the true sense of the term, genuinely intelligent human beings. We call ourselves intelligent human beings. We'll proudly call this age the age of information. Yes, you get lots of information. But think carefully. Much of this information that you get today is junk information, junk mail. And in one of the Buddha's teaching, he says, don't make your mind a garbage bin. We cannot afford to do this. One of the Buddhist teachers says, life is short. There are too many things to do, and it is not possible for you to pay attention to everything. It is not possible for you to learn everything, and it is also not necessary that you learn everything. You should take those things which is good for you, which is good for your family, which is good for your society, which is good for the whole world. After all, if you think about the meaning of human life, this is a very, very important question to ask. Before you ask any question, what is the meaning of human life? Before you explore the stars, the planets. And today we are very good in talking about the stars, the planets, how they function. We have all the details, you see. But when there is a tragedy, there is a difficulty, we are dumbfounded, we are not able to solve it. We have all the ways and means to keep in touch with external things, but we are not in touch with oneself. There are many people who say, I have everything, but something is missing. I feel something is missing from me. I feel some, emptiness or hollowness inside. This is true because you never keep in touch with yourself, because you never replenished your internal resources. You have never strengthened your internal resources. That is why, despite having everything, you feel empty. You feel lonely. You feel dependent on others all the time. The problem of modern society is that we neither know how to live with others, nor we know how to live alone. That is the problem. On almost each and every occasion when I speak to the people, I ask a very simple, direct question that, do you all want happiness? I'm asking the same question to you. Do you all want happiness? Everybody says yes, except one or two, maybe with different reasons, or maybe extremely clever or whatever. But everybody says yes, we all want happiness. For how many days? I ask the next question. You want happiness, but for how many days? They all laugh. They all laugh. Because as far as the question of getting happiness and peace is concerned, it is not a question of experiencing it just for a few months or few days. At least for this whole life, you want that reliable peace and happiness. And if you are a believer in the future lives, like the Buddhists and other spiritual traditions, then you need to plan in such a way that you have that peace and happiness for many lives to come. You need to have this master plan. So this wish to have happiness, rather reliable, long-lasting happiness, and the wish not to have any suffering, any problem at all, this is not something that we learned from our religious traditions. This is our inborn urge. This is something that we all, no matter from which country you come from, which religion you belong to, men or women, doesn't really matter. Whatever is your affiliation, we are all same in that. We need to, first of all, understand this basic truth, this basic reality. Another question that I repeatedly ask people is, after the birth, what is the first job that the child does after the birth? The first job that the child does after the birth is not laughing, crying. Again, same. First thing that the child does is crying. American child, Tibetan child, Chinese child, whoever, same. Interesting, isn't that interesting? Crying. Believe me that when the child cries, I am 100% sure the child is not asking for a lengthy discourse on Buddhism or on any religion, The child is simply asking for mother's milk, which means somebody's unconditional love and affection. So when I talk about internal disarmament, as I've already mentioned, we have so many threats and risks, stockpiling of arms, external weapons, arms, nuclear bombs, and so forth. How can we reduce this stockpiling of arms and do away with them? We can do that only if we become a good human being with unconditional love for others, understanding that basic reality. This is how we all came into this world. And on the day when we leave this world, at that time also, your main concern is, I am sure in the case of the majority of the people, your main concern is not money, not wealth, not name, not fame. Although we worry so much in between, we do so much in between. But at the time of our death or passing away, or when we are sick, when we are dying, when we are lonely, the one thing that you really, really need is, again, somebody's genuine love and affection. This being the case, His Holiness the Dalai Lama repeatedly says, this being the case, how come you forget these qualities in between when you are able to take care of yourself, when you are a little bit energetic, when you have some money, some friends and so forth? You should not forget this. Of course, related to this, all this sounds good, but you will say, oh, this is true, but if we are without arms, then the country on the other side who is nasty, who is a dictator, they will do all the things, they will destroy all of us, the good people, All these questions will be there. If we have time, we can discuss more about those things. But then all I'm saying is, that is not the solution. Killing each other is not the solution. Tibetan masters teach their students by saying, you don't have to kill people, they will die. So you can see how intelligent we are, We harass people. We create more suffering on other people, as if these people are looking for suffering. They are in need of suffering, so you create suffering. They already have a lot of suffering, a lot of problems. So you don't have to create more additional suffering when they are already suffering, when they already have problems. You don't have to kill people because they will die. And then look at this reality. How long are you going to live? And during this short span of life, of your visit on this planet, which one is good? To be constructive? To be kind? To be helpful? Or to be destructive, negative? As a result, others will suffer, you will suffer. And we know this. Someone with a wisdom said that when you came, as I said earlier, when you came into this world, you came crying. Other people received you laughing and smiling, happy birthday or whatever. So therefore you should live your life in such a way that when you leave this world, you will leave others crying, you go smiling and laughing. Because you did your job. You lived beautifully. And it's in our nature. I had this privilege of, meeting so many people from all over the world. People, basically, ordinary people, most of the people, their heart is so kind. On any small occasion or big occasion, when there's really a need, it's the ordinary people who will come you. There's no need for you to know each other or introduce each other, And that is beautiful, and that is what it should be. Because at the time of tragedy and difficulty, the only thing that will help all of us is to show our love, to show our solidarity, to show our compassion. And I have seen this many times. I'm sure you've seen this many times. For example, when you take a flight, the weather is clear, the flight is smooth, and everybody pretends that, okay, I'm also somebody. You're also somebody. Okay, I walk like this. At the most, you'll say, hi. Not much. Okay, you take your seat, I take my seat. Everybody sits dignified, it looks good, well. Now I'm saying, this is the situation when the flight is smooth. After some time, when there is a turbulence, or rather big turbulence, everybody looks at each other and starts smiling. That is the thing. When you face trouble, difficulties, then what helps you sustain your strength, your happiness, your harmony is other people smile, genuine friendship, not pretension, not arrogance, not pride. I see this reality on so many occasions. Unfortunately, people forget all these things when they are slightly better off. They forget all these inner values, spiritual values. I'm not even talking so much about religion. I'm talking about inner values and spiritual values, which is necessary for all of us, believer, non-believer, even those who are against religion. For all of us, universal values, fundamental good human values, without which we cannot survive. We cannot survive. So nurturing, preserving, and protecting these inner values is a necessity, not a luxury. Not a luxury, necessity, without which you cannot survive or you cannot have a happy, harmonious life. Look at today's world. Almost everybody is expecting their peace and happiness from outside, through sensual gratification. You satisfy your senses, eye, ear, so on. Forget about yourself, you just go out, be dependent on your husband, your wife, your children, the car, the house, the money, just go after this. The government also just thinks about this. Forget about all the ethical values, norms. You just do your business with a dictatorial country, whatever, so long the money is coming, you don't worry about these ethical values. The end result will be, sooner or later, your people, including yourself, will start suffering. I am a Tibetan refugee. I thank the Australian government and the Australians who hosting some of our Tibetan brothers and sisters, although not big number, but still in Australia, I really thank all of you. So the first thing when I landed in Sydney was visiting a homeless area. So many people, homeless, drug addiction. Now if it is the homeless situation and the situation of drug addiction is there among the refugees, a little bit understandable. But when so many people are suffering, homelessness or drug addiction or what not, suffering in a so-called independent, not only independent but developed country, what is the cause of this problem? Can you just solve this by giving some money? Is this the way to solve the problem? Lots to think about these things. And I, for one, would say that such kind of problems are mostly to do with forgetting loving kindness to others, forgetting the basic human values. Each and everyone thinks, oh, I can manage. So long as you are not sick, I can manage. I don't care what is happening there. You don't come with an education system where these values are taught. In all the education, most of the education systems, they talk about how to earn money. That's the problem. And the good news is that we have today here all agreed that we all want happiness. You expressed, that was there with you a long time, but you expressed publicly that you all want happiness, long-lasting, reliable happiness. Now, if that is genuinely the case, now then from today onwards, I'm sure many of you are also doing. And in fact, when I give such a talk, I sometimes tell people that I feel embarrassed to say anything in front of you, because those people who come to such talks, they are already good people. So it's almost like preaching the converts. Yeah? It's already good people. But it's good that the good people come together. It's not that I'm saying something and you are for the first time learning. No, that's not the case. You already know, and know much more than I know. But what is important is that we discuss and listen and talk about these things so that we don't forget these things in our daily life. In our daily life, we forget these values. Then we land into problems, land into difficulties. And sometimes I even have to go to the extent of saying that even if your concern is money and health, you will get lots of money and lots of health if you observe these ethical values. You save a lot of money. If you don't follow these ethical values, become a drug addict or whatever, and you earn a little bit of money, you throw everything like that, and you ruin your health, everything, because you don't have that system of ethical values. If you have ethical values, you sleep at the right time for sleep, you do the right thing at the right time, you smile, you do your exercise, you're peaceful, Even in terms of your health and wealth. As we say, if wealth is lost, nothing is lost. If health is lost, everything is lost. And the health means not physical exercise only, unfortunately, again. In more developed countries, people are supposed to be very health conscious. And for that matter, they do a lot of exercise, running every day in the morning or jogging and exercising and stretching and pulling their muscles and whatever, you see. But they don't do any exercise of the mind. That's the tragedy. You fiddle with only those things that you can see, but you completely ignore the real power, the real energy, which is controlling your whole life. The mind is your boss. It is important that you elect your president, you elect your prime minister, good president, good prime. That is very good. At the time of voting, you be very careful about that. But what is even more important is, first you elect your own leader, good leader. And for electing that leader, you don't have to depend on others. You judge yourself whether your mind is predominantly controlled by greed or contentment or anger or patience. You just do a thorough research. If your mind is predominantly controlled by loving kindness, compassion, wisdom, forgiveness, then you have chosen a good leader. Wherever you go, you will be fine. And that is not to say that you will not encounter problems, difficulties. But what I'm saying is, when your mental outlook and attitude is fine, even when there is a tragedy, even when there is suffering, there will be no suffering. Even when there is suffering, there is no suffering. It looks like paradoxical, but what I'm trying to say is, suffering and happiness is very much related to your mental outlook. And much of the so-called sufferings that we are experiencing today are our own creations. 60-70% of the so-called sufferings are not even suffering. It is your mental creation. You thought that this is wrong, this is problem, and unnecessarily you are suffering. So you change your attitude, 60-70% of your suffering will be gone like this. Isn't that good news? Having removed 60-70% of suffering, there may be another 20% suffering still there. But if you look closely on those sufferings, you will again find, yes, these are really sufferings, but they are changeable sufferings. So instead of sitting there and complaining, if you get up and do things, you can change it. You can remove those 20% of sufferings also. So what is left is around 10% of suffering also. And those 10% of sufferings are those kind of sufferings which are deep-rooted suffering or unchangeable suffering. So why should you care about it? Go hell with you. I do something else, you see. That is how you can make your life happy, by changing your mental outlook. Because the problem we are facing today is that we have this tendency to focus on small problems and difficulties and completely get bogged down with that. Oh my goodness, I have this problem, I have this difficulty. Of all the people in the world, I am the most unfortunate. Your mind is making it up. So whenever you encounter some problem, some difficulty, just don't sit and think about it alone, but think about other people. There are millions of people who are much, much less privileged than you, less fortunate than you. And sometimes during such talks, I ask people, you are really fortunate people. You have many things. You must be happy, appreciate that. And people immediately measure that in terms of money. Geshe-la, what do I have to be proud? To be, happy. I tell them, do you have both the eyes intact? Yes. Do you have both the hands intact? Yes. Both the legs intact? Yes. So here you are. Have you appreciated that you have all this intact? There are millions of people who have lost their arms, lost their legs, without eye. Still they wish, if I have both eyes intact, I can do this, I can do that. If I have both hands intact, I can do this, I can do that, you see. You have this and you are not appreciating, therefore you are not doing what you should be doing. So all I'm saying, to make this a long story short and without wasting your time, all I'm saying is, if we are to make this world harmonious and peaceful, there is no other method. No international treaty, UN agreement can solve this problem, as we have seen over the last many centuries. The solution has to come from each one of us. Each one of us must make our small contribution to make a difference, to make everything beautiful. So therefore, what you need to do is, now this is a Buddhist kind of meaning of ethics, morality, or observance of ethics, or discipline, or morality, whatever English term you want to use it, you can use it. But basically, proper ethics, according to Buddhism, means three things. Do not harm others. Extremely important ethical value. So observing discipline doesn't mean that you obey some set of rules and regulations imposed upon you by some external force. Ethical discipline from Buddhist viewpoint is, number one, don't harm others. If you do that, you're wonderful. Imagine if nobody harms each other. This world is almost already like a heaven. You see? Imagine where everybody is peaceful and happy and do not have to have any fear. Nobody harms each other. You see? And this is important. Many people ask me, Geshe, how should to make a long story short, how should I practice it? Then the Buddhist teaching is that you should practice in such a way that you should always yourself be the example and do unto others what you want others to do to you, and don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you. Very simple. So you want others harm you? No. So don't harm others. So don't harm others. Second, not harming others is very, very important. But that's not enough. You should also do many good things. Not harming others is also one good thing. But in addition to that, you should do many good things. Helping others. That's the second ethics. And in order to do all this, why you are not harming others? Why you are helping others? Because you want to serve, make others happy, peaceful. So therefore, serving others. There's the third. Not harming and collecting good qualities and then helping others. These are basically the meaning of the fundamental ethical values. So if we try to observe these values, that is called inner disarmament. Because normally, when somebody harasses you or does something wrong, you immediately get angry. You armor yourself with anger, thinking that anger is the response. Violence is the response, tit for tat. But that is, in the long run, it's not the solution. And it's also against human nature. Because there's nobody who are in senses who will choose getting angry as a good thing. There's nobody who right in the morning makes a motivation and think that today I will really get angry. It's nobody. That means people don't like it. And then somehow in the day, because of the situation, because of the co-workers, you might get upset, you might fight, you might get angry, but in the close of the day, at the end of the day, there's nobody who again will say that I got very angry today, therefore I really enjoyed the day. There's nobody. So this clearly shows anger is not good. And anger makes you ugly. There's nobody who wants to become ugly. Whether you're a man or woman, we make sure that we dress up properly, use some cosmetics, whatever. Put some golden rings, things like that, to make oneself presentable. But having done all this ostentatious decorations, you get angry and see how beautiful you are. When you get angry, your eyes become almost like snake eyes. Wrinkles appear on your forehead. Eyes become bloodshot. Your breathing becomes difficult. Your blood pressure increases. 100,000 things, destructive things arise. It's not just Buddhists are saying. Scientifically tested and proved that this is true. And we all know, we are all experiencing that, you see. What a mess we create when we are angry. So this is just one example of this, the destructiveness of these negative emotions. Anger, jealousy, negative computation, attachment, greed. Mahatma Gandhi said that there is enough for everybody's need, but not enough for everybody's greed. Today, we are destroying the whole planet in the name of progress and development. And we don't. Sometimes I'm dumbfounded, I'm stupid. Because of that, maybe I'm not knowing the meaning of development and progress. We are destroying the whole planet and its equilibrium. And we are saying, oh, very developed country. If there is many high-rise buildings and in between some shiny roads, then we say, wow, big city, highly developed country, not knowing that many people in those high-rise buildings are suffering from loneliness, low self-esteem, depression. Loneliness, can you imagine? Somebody living in a place where there are 20, 30 millions of people living together, and there is somebody suffering from loneliness. Can you imagine? Very often some of my Western friends have asked me, Geshe-la, some of these Tibetan meditators who cut themselves and stay high in the mountain, don't they feel loneliness? I told them, no. They don't feel loneliness because they physically stay high in the mountain, but mentally they are with all sentient beings. They're full of friends and relatives down in the plain, But whereas in our case, physically we live with millions of people, mentally, individualism, egoism, selfishness, therefore we suffer. So what I'm saying may not be completely true, but there is an element of truth there, so give some thought to this. So therefore, the real road to happiness, satisfaction, peace is within oneself, not outside. This is a bitter truth that we all need to learn. At the end of the day, it will be you who has to look after oneself, not your leaders, not even your husband and wife, however nice they may be. It is not possible. That is the rule of the game. That is the truth. That is the law of nature. Even your best friends, relatives, husbands, wives, however loving, however good they are, they cannot enter into the headquarters of your mind and think for you and make you happy. They can only, from outside, give you some consolation, support, and things like that. But if your mind is disturbed, the whole world is disturbed, so nobody can help you. Very difficult. So therefore, that's why I like this expression. When you meet somebody, and when you depart, then they say, bye, take care. Nobody says, bye, I will take care of you. See, even on a very ordinary level, we do have some inkling of understanding of this. But we don't give, a deep thought to these important things and take care of oneself. And the Buddha has very clearly said, self is the protector of the self, no one else is your protector. Self is the enemy of the self, no one is the enemy. Self is the enemy. When somebody harms you, harasses you, or cheats you, deceives you, you feel miserable. Oh, my beloved friend has cheated me, left me alone. When somebody cheats you, you feel miserable and lonely and complain. But when you cheat yourself, it's okay. How many times, 100 times you have cheated yourself? By not doing the right thing? By going in the wrong direction? That is cheating. So if you really want others don't cheat you, first stop cheating yourself. One of the Buddhist teachings says, there is nobody who will catch hold of your hand and throw you into heaven. God also can't do this. Buddha also can't do this. And there is nobody who will, catch hold of your leg and drag you into the hell. Your peace, your happiness is in your hand. Do not cheat yourself. Do not deceive yourself. So in this way, if you start reflecting on this beautiful, wonderful inner potential and strengthen this inner potential, wisdom, compassion, loving kindness, these are, in Buddhism, these are said to be the most costly, precious wealth, not the external material accumulations. The external material accumulation can be destroyed by water, destroyed by fire, stolen by thieves, burglars, and so on. But these internal qualities of love, of strength, of patience, of compassion, wherever you go, they are with you. You will be able to solve your problems, problems of the society, of the community, of the world, and so forth. This is how we should make our country rich, our society rich, where everybody is really able to look at the small kids. If you look at the small kids, they are so pure, so innocent. They don't need much. Just through some simple toys, they can spend the whole day with full laughter, greatest laughter. And if there is a misunderstanding between the two small kids, they will fight over it after 2 minutes. Again, playing together. Now look at the grown-up like us. We are very calculating. The innocence is not there. The purity is not there. If somebody says something, does something, you keep it deep down in your heart. Okay, wait. I'll see you in the corner. Kind of thing, you see. So therefore, we should, of course, we are ordinary human beings. We are not enlightened beings. We make mistakes. That's okay. But recognize the mistakes as mistakes. If there's some argument, some fight, okay, it happens. The next time, after that fight, after the disagreement, go, have the courage to go, touch the hand and shake the hand and say, I'm sorry. We have been such a wonderful friends so many years, but today, unfortunately, this thing happened, That is the end of the story. Your friendship becomes stronger. Now, how many of us can do that? If we do that, say, oh, they had a quarrel and he went there to ask for forgiveness, so he must have done something wrong. And you also think, or other people also think, oh, he is the loser. This is our attitude, you see. So the inner disarmament, in a way, is to understand this inner disturbing negative emotions as the real enemy. Deal with it for your own peace and happiness and for the peace of the world. And if our society, our community of people are able to imbibe these qualities, cultivate these qualities, we'll be able to produce a vibration through which we'll be able to elect leaders who also have similar qualities. See? But if we just completely forget all this and give the idea or impression that all we want is money, the leaders are very good in manipulating it. Okay, all you want is money. Okay, build casino, build big malls. Oh, that's all you want. Get distracted. Okay, just like a uneducated or small child create all these gadgets so that you get completely distracted, you see. So therefore, I will stop here. And I'm giving a lot of hints. And what is important is to really think about it and make our journey on this planet meaningful. Each and every day, bring happiness in the mind of others. If you do that, it is a natural law. It is in our blood. When you have given a helping hand, given a gentle smile, you didn't get anything from that person. You get a gentle smile, and that give you deep, deep satisfaction. On the other hand, if you cheat and exploit others, you might get a lot of money, but deep down you feel unstable, you see. Oh, I've cheated this, he might have known it, she might have known it, and at least your conscience knows it, you see. Happiness means deep down satisfaction. And that deep down satisfaction can come from a life which is free from duplicity. And therefore it is, I think, extremely important for all of us to take our baby steps and make effort to dismantle, reduce all these awful destructive weapons. Each and every country is doing. That is not an easy thing, but I think there is no other way if we are to survive and remain happy and healthy. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we have 2 microphones up the top there. We have time for questions. So please put up your hands if you would like to ask a question, and the mic will come to you very quickly.
Thank you very much for that. My question, I'm up here. My question is actually about how do you deal with passive aggression? So, that the problem is that you can actually appear to be really compassionate and loving and kind, but really it can come from a place of hiding the aggression and resentment and fear even. And you can live your whole life like that. So it becomes a tricky problem then.
I know. That's the problem, you see. If you don't nurture these qualities on a large scale right from the beginning, then when this kind of aggressive elements come up, number one, these aggressive elements come up because you have not prepared the people right from the beginning, you see. So there is no quick fix solution for this kind of things. Education, through mass education, that we should nurture, cultivate our children in such a way that, number one, such elements do not pop up. It can be done, or at least it can definitely be minimized. Because these young children they can be led into any direction. It's the responsibility of us, the grown-ups. They're like marts, You shape them in any way. They are very clever, intelligent, and sensitive. So it depends what kind of environment are we giving to them, what kind of education are we giving to them. So the most important thing is try to give that education right from the beginning so that we don't see such elements. And that's why, like, when many of these difficult situations, like conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan and so many places, sometimes people come to His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, and ask him, His Holiness, what role you want to play? This is the problem. What can you do? His Holiness said, nothing I can do. All these things should have been taught much earlier before the conflict took place. And once there is a conflagration of fire and hundreds have been killed on each side, then it's not easy. And His Holiness Dalai Lama also sometimes gives a more practical advice also. He says, if a mad dog is chasing you to bite you, it is sensible to run away rather than sitting there saying, oh, I'm practicing patience and compassion. If you do that, the dog will bite you. So the sensible thing is you run. Okay? And then if you are somebody who is really trained well, then it is, even if it is not a dog, but somebody with a gun, and then of course you cannot say, oh, don't shoot, I'm practicing love and compassion. It may work in some cases. It did work in some cases. In America and some places there are stories of people who really stood firm and look at my eye, you see, I did nothing wrong to you, then they stop. That happens, but in many cases, the crazy people with gun, they just shoot, So if you also have a gun, if there is a possibility you snatch the gun and shoot back, probably in the leg or somewhere, not to kill that person. But this needs a lot of training. But what I'm saying is really like the most important thing is general education. Okay? And then through the practice of love and compassion, because many people think loving kindness and compassion are sign of weakness. No. They're sign of strength. If you use guns, you don't need any strength. The bullet will do the job. So that is actually weakness. So whatever be the case, there are several ways of thinking in that line. And then on a higher level, there are people who even say, okay, even if they kill me, I will not fight back. Let them kill me. There is death to my body, but not death to my mind. The Tibetans, you can't believe, Tibetans are doing this right now in China. 130 Tibetans self-immolated themselves, killed themselves by dosing themselves with kerosene fire and things like that, without doing any damage to the torturers. Can you imagine? They are happening today. So it is possible. It is possible. So all I'm saying is, at the end of the day, violence is not the solution. So what is the method? How to stop it? There are so many things to think about, to discuss about, but violence is not the solution. That's what I'm saying. So the main question is, by which human rights value to the increasing world population would better support compassionate and considerate awareness to help and better understand His Holiness Dalai Lama's ongoing purpose for continuous religious autonomy and to provide the safety for the Tibetan people. His Holiness is not just asking for religious autonomy, he's just asking autonomy, genuine autonomy, not religious or anything, genuine autonomy for Tibetan people. Because His Holiness had the foresight and the wisdom, despite all these unfortunate happenings with the Chinese Communist government, His Holiness has always asked the Tibetans that violence is not the solution. Let us have negotiation, let us have dialogue. And he thinks that is the human way. If there is a problem, then we should solve the problem through discussion and dialogue, not through using force. That is his basic fundamental belief. So therefore he has said that let us not talk about the history. Leave the history to the historians. Whether Tibet is an independent country or not, leave that historical part to the historians. What is important is future. Today people are talking about globalization. Look at the whole Eastern Europe, European countries. They have changed. They become democratically free. Look at the relation between France and Germany, which used to be sworn enemy. Now today, the European Union. Things are changing. So therefore, what is important is the future. And Tibetans and Chinese live side by side. That genuine geographical border cannot be shifted to another planet. We need to live side by side. This being the case, if we solve the problem through negotiation and dialogue, then we can live side by side peacefully. If you try to solve this through gun, through power, which unfortunately the Chinese government is doing today, then you may be able to solve the problem today, but not tomorrow, not next year. That's not the solution, because violence breeds counter-violence. So therefore, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Tibetan said, for the last more than 50 years, continuously sticking onto this path of non-violence and compassion. And so many people had died and sacrificed their life without resorting to violence. So therefore, path of non-violence is what is needed, not only in the case of Tibet, but throughout the whole world. Non-violence is not just the absence of violence. Non-violence is not pacifism. It is dynamic. It is a dynamic force. Non-violence is based on active practice of compassion, feeling for others' well-being. So that is what is needed in solving the Tibetan situation and also solving the problems that happen everywhere on any level. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah.
I was just a little bit curious if you were like born into being a monk, or if it's something that you sought out yourself.
No, nobody is born as a monk. No. Everybody choose. But in my case, it's difficult for me to say I have chosen it, because in Tibet, materially not developed, spiritually highly developed, especially more than 98% follow Buddhism. So therefore, Buddhism was the only thing that everybody admire and appreciate. And the parents encourage, you should become a monk, their little sons and daughters, you become a monk, you become a nun, you see. So some Western writers, they said 10% of the Tibetan population are monks and nuns. That may be true, may not be true, but there are many monks and nuns. There is this encouragement, there is this environment, so people prefer to become, So that is primarily because of the situation. You cannot say that you have chosen it because you are too young. I also became monk when I was very, very young. But believe me, I'm not regretting it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Geshe Lhakdor. Your talk today is a real timely reminder to us all here that peace work is personal. I come from the perspective of an international lawyer by training, and as we know, international law deals with the law of nations, and for too long now, we have left the idea of peace work to countries, and look at what has become of the world today. And I think increasingly we need now to realize that achieving peace, keeping peace, maintaining peace is actually a personal endeavor. And Geshe-la, you mentioned too that we are now in an age of information where everybody is connected. Unfortunately, we all too know too well that there's a lot of connectivity, but very little connectedness amongst human beings. Those of us with teenage children will know their euphoria when they say, I have 1,000 friends on Facebook, but yet come Saturday, they are locked up in the room, they can't find someone to go out for a meal with. So that is the state of loneliness that I think Geshe-la has alerted us to. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has often said that people in our lives who push our buttons are the ones we need to be grateful for. They are our greatest teachers. They should be our treasure. And on that note, indeed, it reflects precisely what Geshe-la has been talking to us today, and that is the idea of inner disarmament for external disarmament. Human beings for too long now have focused on the conquest of outer space, when in fact it should be inner space that we turn to. So thank you very much once again for your most enlightening talk. And on behalf of the Center for Peace and Social Justice and the university, we would like to show our appreciation with Baden presenting a small token to Geshe-la.
And I'd also like to give my thanks very much for Geshe Lhakdor and his speech today. Through the semester, my students have been struggling with the question of how to think for ourselves as we face the very complexities of the world and the problems that are thrown at us. The definition of the word problem, in fact, means to have something thrown at you and you have to catch it and deal with it. And I think that it's so true from what we heard today that the most important thing is with education and educating ourselves to understand how to meet those complexities in the world, how to become culturally sensitive, culturally intelligent from a humanities point of view. I would like to formally thank Geshe Lhakdor for coming today to Lismore, to Southern Cross University. The Vice-Chancellor, Professor Peter Lee, unfortunately couldn't be here. He was very happy to host this event, and it's with his support that we've been able to have this marvellous gathering today. It's wonderful to actually have students from various high schools in the region, so I acknowledge and respect the fact that you've come here to also partake and listen to a very distinguished visitor to the region. And thank you for those of you who've come from far and wide to Lismore today. So thank you very much for coming from the Centre for Peace and Social Justice at Southern Cross University. We wish you well. Thank you.